ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
वन्दे
गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना
भवतु
भवतु वीर्यं
सह वीर्यं
कर्वावहै
करवावहै
तेनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति 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 ॐ तत्सत् ॐ नमः शिवाय Okay, so we had completed the 10th Anuvaka in the last class, and we should be on the 11th today. So I will request Rituji and Irvesh ji to please chant that Anuvaka.
Thank you, Acharya ji.
Thank you, sir.
Om Vedamanujacharyoonte vasinamanushasте satyam vada dharman chara swadhyaya anma pramadaha आचार्याय प्रियन्धनमाहृत्य प्रजातन्तुं मा व्यवच्छेत्सीः सत्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम् धर्मान्न प्रमदितव्यम् कुशलान्न प्रमदितव्यम् भूतयैन प्रमदितव्यम् स्वाध्याय प्रवचनाभ्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम् देवपितृकार्याभ्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम् मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव यान्यनवद्यानि कर्माणि तानि सेवितव्यानि नो इतराणि यान्यस्माकं सुचरितानि तानि त्वयोपास्यानि नो इतराणि ये के चास्मच्छ्रेया गुंसो ब्राह्मणाः तेषां त्वयासनेन प्रश्वसितव्यम् श्रद्धया देयम् अश्रद्धया देयम् श्रिया देयम् ह्रिया देयम् धिया देयम् संविदा देयम् अथ यदि ते कर्म विचिकित्सा वा वृत्त विचिकित्सा वा स्यात् ये तत्र ब्राह्मणा आसम्मर्षिणः युक्ता आयुक्ताः अलूक्षा धर्मकामा स्युः यथा ते तत्र वर्तेरन् तथा तत्र वर्तेथाः अथाभ्या आख्यातेषु ये तत्र ब्राह्मणा आसम्मर्षिणः युक्ता आयुक्ताः अलूक्षा धर्मकामा स्युः यथा ते तेषु वर्तेरन् तथा तेषु वर्तेथाः एष आदेशः एष उपदेशः एषा वेदोपनिषत् एतदनुशासनम् एवमुपासितव्यम् एवमुचैतदुपास्यम्.
Oh, thank you for very beautiful chanting. So this is a long Anuvaka, as you can see. And if those of you who have the mantra pushpam, you will find that there is a subheading for this Anuvaka, like all Anuvakas. It's called Shishya Anushasana. These are the instructions for the student. Okay. So now let us see what is being said here. Let me first just give you the. Okay, let's carry on and we'll see. See what is happening in this section onwards is that the Upanishad is condensing the. I'm just muting all so that sounds don't come. So Upanishad is condensing the entire Veda Purva Bhaga, the Dharma Shastra area, right? So for the Grahastha, this is very important. For the sannyasi, this is not because sannyasa represents cutting that religious life out of your area. So that basically, when you remove the sacred thread, right, it represents the giving up of all relationships, family, and all these are representing religious life. So a sannyasi transcends religious life and gets into spiritual life. For the grahastha, both are equally. What is the importance of religious life? So we have not done much of the karma kanda, though actually this portion, which you can see here in this Upanishad, is karma kanda portion. We are also doing the karma kanda portion in a fair amount of detail in the Chandogya Upanishad, where a number of upasanas are being seen by us. So this Veda Purva portion, karma kanda portion, there is an analysis by a rishi called Jaimini Maharishi, right? So that Maharishi has written a text which is called Purva Mimamsa Sutrani. Like we have Purva Mimamsa Sutrani and Uttara Mimamsa Sutrani. So Uttara Mimamsa Sutrani is called Brahma Sutra, and this is called Purva Mimamsa Sutrani. It's an analysis of the entire Karma Kanda. It's a very large work, 12 chapters and 2000 plus sutras. And this text begins with Athatho Dharma Jigyasa. Now the study of Dharma Shastra is being begun. And in Brahma Sutra, when it's Athatho, it also begins with Athatho. Athatho Brahma Jigyasa. In Brahma Sutra, there is a very elaborate analysis where Shankaracharya says that this Athatho, now let us begin. Now after, let us begin. So the after refers to after studying of Dharma Shastra. So only after Jnana Kanda you are supposed to enter. No, sorry, only after study of Karma Kanda you are supposed to enter Jnana Kanda. So without Dharma Shastra, Brahma Shastra cannot be entered into. And therefore, this particular Anuvaka is giving you the overview, a bird's eye view of the Dharma Shastra. It is summary. Now the question might come, when should I study Dharma Shastra? Right? It is, as I said, it is preparatory for Vedanta because it gives Chitta Shuddhi. And therefore, obviously, before the study of Vedanta, you should study Dharma Shastra or Karma. So in the old days, it was to be studied in the Brahmacharya ashram as a student before you got into Grahastha. And in this Brahmacharya ashram, this particular study is in two stages. First is called the Veda Adhyayanam stage, that is learning to chant. So there is no grasping of the meaning, you just memorize and chant. And you can, when you're young, all of us know that you can memorize anything. So at that point of time, this chanting is done. Then there is a Veda Mimamsa. So the first portion is learning to chant. In the second portion, second part is learning to analyze the words and sentences and the meaning. Of course, here I mean only the Veda Purva portion. Okay, that is the Gurukula system. Right. Therefore, what is he going to do? He is going to practice. And what is he practicing? He is getting Nitya Naimittika karmas, which he has to carry out, perform in the Grahastha ashram. So the Grahastha ashram, therefore, is Anusthana Pradhanam. It is focused on carrying out of Karma Kanda rituals, Nitya Naimittika karmas. Now, in the ninth Anuvaka, we saw some karmas, right? Here again, there's some repetition over here. Now, what is the necessity of karma? Karma has two benefits, worldly benefits and Chitta Shuddhi benefit also. So, as Vedantic students, of course, we are not, at least we should not be interested in worldly benefits. Otherwise, you would not be in Vedanta, you would be in Karma Kanda. So, as a Vedantic student, then the question will come, if I am not interested in worldly benefits, why am I being taught the Karma Kanda part? Because I came to study Upanishads. And now in the Upanishads, you are teaching me Karma Kanda. Why so? So Shankaracharya uses the word Purusha Samskara. He says it cleans the Purusha. Samskara here means cleaning. So cleaning the person, basically giving Chitta Shuddhi. And he says the same set of karma which can be used by the karma kandi for gaining material benefits, that same set of karma. You need not change the karma. That same set of materials can be used for getting chitta. So samskara is the term being used. And samskara, remember, is used for any purification. For example, if you've gone to any havan or puja in any ashram, you will find that there's a sprinkling of water on the instruments first and on the place also, the sitting area also. All that is samskara only, cleaning. And therefore, Shankara says that this instruction of the Shruti in this Anuvaka is meant for purification of the mind. Why? Because only a person who has a refined mind, right? So Shankaracharya uses the word Vishuddha Sattvasya, who has got a very pure Sattvika mind. For him only, he says, Atmajnanam will arise without any obstruction when at the very time of Shravana. So this is not just Shankaracharya's words. There is both Shruti support and Smriti support for the view that Chitta Shuddhi is essential. And without Chitta Shuddhi, Jnanam will not arise. So Shankara quotes from Manusmriti. So for those who are interested, it is 12.104. It is tapasa kalmasham anti vidyaya amritam ashnute iti. So tapasa means not just austerities. It means nitya, naimittika, karma, anushtanam. Performance of nitya, naimittika, karma. So tapasa. By performing these nitya, naimittika, karma, what happens? Kalmasham hanti. The impurities are destroyed. What impurities? The impurities of the mind, kama, krodha, lobha, all those things, including vikshepa, they are destroyed. And vidyaya amritam ashnute. Because the impurities are destroyed, the mind becomes a fit container for receiving the knowledge. And what is the advantage of the knowledge? Amritam ashnute. That very knowledge will make you immortal. And in the same Upanishad, Taitriya Upanishad, there is a mantra in the third chapter, which we will come to, which says, Tapasa Brahma Vijignyasasva. One has to do tapas. Again, tapas here is to be taken as karma. And Brahma Vijignyasasva, it will give you Chitta Shuddhi, and then only Jnanam will work. And therefore, Shankara concludes that for the purpose of Atma Jnanam, Karmani Anushteyani. One should definitely perform the karma. And not only that, the Veda, Anushasti, it commands. It's not a request, it commands. Therefore, you have to obey this command. And if you don't obey the command is what? Of doing karma for the purpose Chitta Shuddhi, when it's a violation of the command. So the Anushasti is the command to do the karma. And Shankara says if you don't do that karma, it's actually a violation of this command. And by violating the command of Shastram, there is a uh, production of a dosha, of a papa. And what is the papam called?
Pratyavaya.
Pratibhaya papam. Can you explain why it is called Pratibhaya papam?
It actually doesn't produce any papam, but it kind of reveals the already accumulated papam if you're not doing your daily nitya karma.
That is correct. But the reason is that we said if you don't obey the commandment, see, papam is normally produced by a karma. But here you are not doing the karma. So, not doing what is required to be done, vihita akaranam, we saw earlier, that produces that prativaya papam, which is actually revealing of the papam already generated. Okay. And we saw all this in the Bhashyam, okay, long, long, long ago. So I hope you remember. If you don't, go back to the beginning section and look at the discussion on prativaya papam. Now, this prativaya papam can create two types of problems depending on which person we are talking about. If you are talking about a Laukika person, a worldly person who is not a sadhaka, it will give rise to future problems by way of the papam that has been not cleaned up because of not doing the commandments, actions. What has happened? The papam will have accumulated. And that not cleaned up, accumulated papam will give its fruits in the future. So for a grihastha who is not a sadhaka, who is not on the spiritual path, Prativa Papam has the cap- capacity to produce future problems. Could be anyway, any sort of problems, right? Any pain. And for a sadhaka, remember that Pratibha Papam has a very specific um, result. What is that? It obstructs the rise of jnana. Because of the Pratibha Papam, jnanam will not be available to the sadhaka. So when we looked at the ninth Anuvaka, we also discussed karma, right? We have to specifically remember that ninth Anuvaka karma, the discussion is in the context of uh, paraloka phalam, like swarga praptihi, going to heaven, brahmaloka praptihi, going to brahmaloka, etc. But in the 11th Anuvaka, in this Anuvaka, this discussion is not meant for phalam like going to heaven and all. It is meant for chitta shuddhi, the second type of phalam. And therefore, this Anuvaka summarizes the entire Purveda by saying Vedam Anuchya. Anuchya means here he's talking about Anuvachana, learning to chant. And as many of you who are studying from Arvind have figured out, learning to chant the Veda is a long-term project. You can't do it in a couple of months, right? Because the chanting has to be perfected. The swaras have to be perfected. The breathing has to be perfected. Therefore, in every Gurukulam in the old days, there was a method followed. In every year that he was in the Gurukulam, remember that once you enter the Gurukulam, you don't have vacations, right? You don't go home, summer vacations and all that. So the once you enter the Gurukulam, you leave it only when you have graduated. Therefore, you have the whole year for yourself. So in every year that you are studying in the Gurukula, the year is divided into two periods, 6 months each. So one period of 6 months, he learns to chant. A fresh set of mantras, he learns to chant. And then he stops. He doesn't learn any more mantras. In the next 6 months, he is meant for only repeating the chanting. So what happens? For 6 months, you learn to chant. Next 6 months, you just repeat. What is the outcome?
You would have memorized.
You would have memorized perfectly. Right? And this keeps on happening. And also, of course, during those 6 months, he learns the language and the grammar or Sanskrit, all that is done. So it takes about 8 years or so, okay, because you enter at roughly 12 and graduate at 2021. So having Anuchya Veda, having taught the Vedas or having studied the Vedas in the prescribed manner, what happens? So this is talking about the Acharya. The Acharya Vedam Anuchya Acharya. The Acharya having taught the Veda in this particular prescribed manner. Acharyaha Ante Vasinaha Anushasti. So if you look at that whole thing, Vedam Anuchya Acharyaha Ante Vasinam Anushasti. That is the Sandhi breakup of the first line. So having taught the Vedas in the prescribed manner, which is Veda Adhyayana, the student has learned to chant. Then Acharya, the teacher, Ante Vasinam. Ante Vasinam is second case. Antevasi means what?
This student who's residing in the Gurukula.
The student who is residing in the Gurukulam. So, Acharya Antevasinam Anushasti. That Acharya teaches the student. Anushasti teaches the student. Right? And therefore, Shankara says this Anu. Shasti means to teach. So Shankara looks at Anu and says that if Shasti means to teach, what does Anu mean? Anu normally means following after something. Therefore, Shankara says Anu should be taken as Paschat, afterwards. Afterwards means what? Grantha Grahanat Anu. Grantha Grahanat means having memorized that text, having learned to chant. So the discipline is extremely clear in the old days. What is it? First learn to chant and then come to class. It is not practical anymore because if I asked everybody to learn to chant, memorize and come to class, I don't know how many students will be there in the class. Probably I'll be the only one, right? So that thing is gone now. So Anushasti means he teaches the meaning of the mantras. Right. Now again, you should not forget, we are talking about Karma Kanta, Dharma Shastram. So he is teaching the meaning of Dharma Shastra mantras. And therefore, we come to know that in the traditional Gurukuls, what was taught? Chanting and the meaning. I am not sure how it is with most Gurukuls, but the one or two I know, only chanting is taught. They know which mantra to use on which occasion. If you ask them for a wedding, they'll know which mantra to use. If you ask them for some homam, they'll know which mantra to use. But the meaning, if you ask them, they don't know. Right? That's why most of your purohits whom you call for various functions in the house, they may be good at chanting. But if you ask them meaning, they'll give you a very superficial meaning, if they give you meaning at all. Okay. Now, what is this teaching? Now, this is being said now. Satyam vada dharmam chara. Okay. So, vada. This is the first the, not the. Big difference between satyam vada and satyam vada. Okay. So, the pronunciation is extremely important. Satyam vada means speak the truth. Satyam vada means
Kill it.
kill the truth. So,
Kill the truth.
never speak the truth. Okay. That's so be careful when you chant. Satyam vada, not the. The. Satyam vada. Speak the truth. Dharmam chara. So now begins the teaching of Dharma Shastra. And when you talk about Dharma, we have seen before. There are two types of Dharma. Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. So Samanya Dharma means general values which are common across the entire humanity. And Vishesha Dharma is specific values common to or restricted to a particular Varna particular ashrama. Okay, I'm using the word varna, not caste. Caste is a distorted version. So specific to varna and ashrama. Okay, so whenever we talk about you know, brahmana, kshatriya, it is varna. Varna is not a caste. It's not a caste. What is the difference between varna and caste? Anybody? We have done this discussion in great detail in Bhagavad Gita.
Varna would refer to not to jati, uh, this thing,
Yes,
but the guna.
correct. So varna is a classification based on the guna. So if you are predominantly sattvic, then you are brahmana. Right? If you are predominantly rajasic, then you are kshatriya. So we saw all that in Gita. We had this classification which said sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, rajasic, sattvic, tamasic, and all the combinations with it. I am not going into all those. If you need more clarity, you have to go back to your Gita classes because this is advanced. This is the Taitriya Upanishad. And therefore, there are certain values which are specific to the Varnashrama. So he says Satyam Vada. This Karmakanda Jnanam that has been received through the Pramanam of Veda. Shankara adds here, you should also share that with others. That he very clearly says that that jnanam which you have received, that Dharma Shastra knowledge which you have received through Karma Kanda, through the Pramanam of Karma Kanda, Veda, through your Guruji, is required to be shared with others. It's a very important point. The knowledge should always be shared with others, irrespective of which Varna Ashrama that you are belonging to. If you have received the knowledge, it is your duty to share with others. So this is Samanya Dharma. So once you guys are comfortable with what you are studying, are sure that you know exactly what has been discussed, it is Samanya Dharma for you to teach somebody else. Okay. So that is the first thing, Samanya Dharma. Moreover, Dharma, Dharmam Chara. So Dharmam Chara, Shankara says that all Dharmam means all the instructions in the Upanishad, which we call Vidhivakyam and Nishedavakyam. Vidhivakyam is instructions about things which are to be done. Nishedavakyam is instructions about things which are not to be done. So dharma means these set of these two, do's and don'ts. So in general, all instructions about karma, and karma means three types of karma: bodily, verbal, and mental. So kayika karma, vachika karma, and manasika karma. Any instructions appearing in the Veda regarding the performance or avoidance, Vidi Nishedaha. Those instructions are called dharma. So therefore remember that dharma and is also samanya Vidi, the general instructions, prohibitions, all those things. Whereas Satyam Vada is a specific Vidi. Okay. Now, we might wonder what is the difference between Satyam and Dharma. So there are commentators who give different meanings. So they say there's a commentator called Sayana Acharya. There's also another very famous commentator called Amaradas. So if you read their commentaries, they will say Satyam is Smarta Vidhi. Smarta Vidhi means appearing in the Smritis, right? And Dharmam is Shrauta Vidhi, appearing in the Shrutis. A very small difference they give between Satyam and Dharma. Okay. So whenever we talk about, some people talk about Satyam, some people talk about Dharma. There, the meaning can be taken as some are coming from the standpoint of the Smritis. Some and Dharma is the standpoint of the Shrutis. So if there is a instruction in, let us say, Smriti, do this. Mahabharata says something, do this. Or Manusmriti says something, that can be referred to as Satya. If there is uh, something to be done, referred to in Shruti, then that is Shruti means Veda. Then that's called Dharma. So this is the difference. From some people give Satyam and Dharma. So depending on where the instruction is derived from, they can give a different names. Anyway, it's only for background information. Okay. So it can be either a vidhi, something to be done, or it can be something to be avoided. Then the next one is Swadhyaya Swadhyayan Ma Pramata. So if you break it up, the na, half na turns into a ta. So Swadhyayat Ma Pramadaha. Ma means don't. Pramadam is neglect. So Ma Pramadaha. Do not neglect. Pramadam Ma Karshi. May you not neglect is the meaning of Ma Pramadaha. And Swadhyayat means the chanting of the scriptures, Parayana of the scriptures. That's the first instruction, right? Do not neglect in your daily life to chant the scriptures. So, as far as Vidhi is concerned, I think most of us violate this very routinely, right? How many of us really chant? And really in chanting means having memorized and chant. So, this is referring to the Brahmacharya ashram, where you first learn to chant, memorize, and then learn to chant. Therefore, the daily chanting which you learned in the Brahmacharya ashram and memorized and chanted there, you should continue to chant in Grihastha ashram. Why?
For your children to observe and follow.
That could be one, but
So that
the primary reason is
so
that if
that
you
we
don't
don't
chant
forget.
something, exactly, if you don't chant something regularly, you will forget. Nobody has very
Not
few
to
people have
forget.
photographic memories. Okay, so this is called Brahma Yajna. This is meant for a Grihastha, right? It's called Brahma Yajna. Okay, so that is the first instruction that the Guru is giving. You now, for example, this may be the graduation ceremony, So the Shruti is saying that once you graduate, you should remember in the old days, the ashram to ashram transition was immediate. Like you didn't finish brahmacharya ashram and then hang in limbo like Trishanku. And then 1 year later, nowadays we have this thing, I have finished my graduation. Now, before post graduation, I shall take some me time and go around the world doing nothing. So, those days, those things were not there. There was no intermediate gap because you had to be a ashrami at all times. You could not, you had to belong to some ashram or the other. You Either you were a brahmachari or you're a grihastha, or you're a vanaprastha, or you're a sannyasi, right? A person who's not a ashrami was looked down upon. So, what is the instruction? As soon as you finish your brahmacharya ashram, you're supposed to get married. Okay, that's when you become grihastha ashram. So, the instruction is once you graduate from this brahmacharya ashram and then you go to grihastha ashram, do not forget to continue chanting every day, parayanam every day, because otherwise you will forget. And those days you didn't have written texts, or internet from where you can download all these things. So you all in memory only. Then the next instruction, Acharyaya Priyam Dhanam Aharatya Prajatantu Ma Vyavachetsehi. Prajatantu Ma Vyavachetsehi. So Acharyaya. Acharyaya means for the Acharya. What should you do? Priyam Dhanam Aharatya. So Dhanam Aharatya, Guru Dakshina should be given. And Priyam. Priyam means that Guru Dakshina which will be liked by the Acharya. Ishtam. Priyam is Ishtam, liked by the Acharya. And Aharatya. The question here is, do you see a question over here? When Guru Dakshina is to be given to the Acharya, as you are leaving the Gurukulam, there could be a problem. What is the problem?
How will the brahmachari have
Money.
money?
Right? Because he's been in the Acharya Gurukulam all his life. So Aharatya here, that's what the word Aharatya is used. Dhanam Aharatya. First you get the Dhanam. You get the money. You should bring some money. So what is needed? In the old days, the Shishya could go and then go to the king or some other charitable person and say that I know so much, I can demonstrate my chanting power, etc. So they would earn some money by making a demonstration of their knowledge. And that money you would give to the Guru. Therefore, and Tattvas. That's why Shankaracharya adds in his commentary, Dhanam Aharitya, having earned that money or got that money from some charitable person, Tattva, he should give it to the Acharya. Okay, so that is a commentary explanation. It's not there in the mantra. Then the question comes, why? Why should you give the Acharya Dakshina? So Shankaracharya writes, Vidya Nishkrayaha. Nishkraya means having purchased. So Vidya Nishkrayaha, because he has purchased that learning from the Guru, and therefore he has a runam. Runam is a debt. And the word runam is very important because Shastra says very clearly that at the time of your death, make sure you have paid up all your debts. No runam should be there. You should be runam free. Because what is the reason?
But we have
You'll
to
have to be
need to
born
come
You
again.
back
will
in
be
that place.
reborn.
You'll have to be reborn to
Mhm.
pay your debts. And therefore you should be runam free. And this is the first runam that you have accumulated because you have learned from the Acharya. Therefore, you should pay the debt. Remember, Acharya will never say, give me 10 rupees or 10,000 rupees or 10 lakh rupees. And that's why it's Aharitya. You can go and earn whatever you have earned, that is the Dakshina. The Acharya will happily accept because you have made the effort. So, this is one principle of life that we should always have. Even today, this principle is very much, operative. Never have anything with you as your own which has not been paid for by you. Okay, once this principle is there, that is called what by in Yoga Shastra, it's called a name. What is that? Is there in the Yam Niyama list? Nobody in the Yoga Shastra side over here. Okay, it's called
Same.
Astheyam, right? Not taking what is not yours. All right. Now, Shastra talks about three types of debts, three rinams. Right? And Shastra says that everybody comes into this life with three ranams, three debts. They are Rishi Ranam, Deva Ranam, and Pitra Ranam. Rishi Ranam is what? The debt that I owe to the rishis of old for all the knowledge that they have given the universe, given the world. Right? Because they are the ones who have explained all the shastras and all that. So I owe them that much debt. And how do I discharge that debt? Only by study of shastra. So Rishiranam is discharged in Brahmacharya ashram because you study the shastra. Right? If you look at this today, it's a very important idea because in today's world, how many people really discharge Rishiranam? Very, very few. And if you have not discharged that, you are definitely going to be reborn. That is the first one, Rishiranam. You can discharge that only by studying the Shastra. Why? Because the rishis, when they gave their knowledge, they gave it so that you would study. That is the only way you can discharge. The second one is Devaranam. Devaranam is your debt to the gods. And that is discharged by way of Agniotram, Upasana, all the rituals prescribed in Karma Kanda, which you do where in Grihastha ashram. So Rishirinam can be discharged in Brahmacharya ashram. Devaranam is discharged in Grihastha ashram. And the third one is Pitraranam. How do you discharge Pitraranam?
The
Rituals.
Shastras say by having children, furthering the lineage.
Very good.
That's
So
one of
Pitraranam means to ensure that the rituals for the Pitras are continued in your lineage. That is a real reason. When you say that I am Pitraranam can be discharged by children, it is not a mere act of having children, right? The idea is there is a Kula Dharma. The Kula Dharma, the family dharma is there, which requires you to continue with prayers for your ancestors, Pitras, throughout, not just your life. Your life you must do, but you have to ensure that in future also those rituals will be conducted continuously without break. And therefore, necessity to have children. Because you teach the children the same Kula Dharma, and just as they will do for you after your death, they will also do for your forefathers. What is the main idea behind these three ranams? Without discharging these three ranams, it is said that you should never enter sannyasa ashram. Remember, it is sannyasa ashram that jnanam is to be gained. Okay. So, with all that we have studied so far, how do you know that you are ready for jnanam or sannyasa ashram in these words?
certain level of vairagya or chitta shuddhi. How would we?
You have a certain level of sadhana, chatushtaya sampatti, right? So, being free of these three debts. So, when I was in investment banking, we used to use a word for that, a non-leveraged position. So, in financial terms, a non-leveraged position is what? A position where you don't have any debts. You are not leveraging your capital to get debts, right? So, sadhana, chatushtaya sampatti is the indication of being debt free. So, if you have got adequate sadhana, chatushtaya sampatti, which means you feel the draw of jnana. You can sit for hours together in a Vedanta class without getting disturbed. You can come week after week, month after month, year after year, and you look forward to each class. Then it's an indication that these three debts have been discharged. Okay, right. Now, so we were Acharyaya Priyam Dhanamaharitya. After having given the Guru Dakshana, he can leave the Gurukulam. And then the next part is there. Prajatantum vivachetasihi. He should ask the Guru, like while leaving, he should ask the Guru whether he is fit to become a responsible grahastha, right? Because, in other words, whether he is fit to get married, he should ask his Guru. And then Shankara says, Acharyena cha anugyataha. After having received the okay, the approval of his Guru, after his Guru says, yes, I think you are now a responsible person and you can support a family. Because getting married before you are ready affects not just your life and your family, it affects somebody else and somebody else's family also. Therefore, the Acharya gives the approval. And then Prajatantum. So, Prajatantum is broken up as Praja Santanam. Santanam literally means what? An uninterrupted flow. And Praja means children. So, it doesn't mean that you should have an uninterrupted flow of children. Okay. Don't interpret to say that you should have one child after another and keep on having children throughout your life. Prajatantum is uninterrupted flow so that the family lineage is maintained. So you can have maybe one child, but that child should have one more child, and that child should have one more child. So the lineage is maintained. That is Prajatantum. And therefore, Vyavachetsi, that Prajatantum, that family lineage, one should not break. Therefore, you should have children. So this is the instruction, right? And therefore, in the old days, it was essential to get married. It was essential to have a child. And more importantly, essential to get the child married also, right? So, because of this mandatory nature of having children, then, in case you don't have a child, what do you do? That pariharam, that, what I call, remedy also is available in Shastram elsewhere. What is the remedy? We have talked about it. What is the remedy if you get married and you don't have children? If you wanting to,
Adoption.
well,
Adoption.
no, it's a very nice thing to do, but it's not there in the Shastra. So you do special rituals like Putra Kameshti Yagnya. It's a particular ritual to have children. And in spite of all that, if children are not born, then you can take it as Bhagavan's wish. Okay. I am not saying don't adopt. You can adopt, but it's not provided for in Shastra. Okay, but adoption is a very good thing. It requires a huge heart. To love a kid who is not your blood, you're a very generous person. But if children are not born according to this process, then what you should do is you accept it and say, this is Ishvara Ichha. Once my family lineage ends here. Okay. Then Satyanna Pramaditavyam. So again you break it up. Satyanna is Satyat na Pramaditavyam. So Pramaditavyam means na Pramaditavyam. Do not be careless. So Pramaditavyam can be taken as Pramadaha na Kartavyaha. Do not do things with negligence or do not be negligent. So the literal meaning is do not be negligent with the truth. Satyat na Pramaditavyam. Do not be careless with truthful speech. In other words, what?
Satyam Bada.
In other words, do not see. The very careful meaning is here. Satyam Vada means speak the truth. Do not be careless with the truth means what?
Priyambada also.
Whenever you speak the truth.
Oh, do not be careless. The
Whenever
truth
you
means
speak
do
the
not
truth.
utter untruth. There is a huge difference between Satyam Vada and Asatyam Vada. Do you see? The instruction
Mhm.
cannot possibly be that only Satyam Vada. You must speak the truth in all circumstances. That is not what is meant by Shastram. Satyam Vada is meant to be understood as whenever you speak, speak only the truth. So we'll see all that later. It's all there in great detail. Okay. So Satyatna Pramaditaviyam means do not be careless with truthful speech. In other words, always avoid untruth. Whenever you speak, speak only the truth. And why is that so? Shankaracharya says, because this pramadaha, this negligence with regard to Satyam will bring in the possibility of speaking the Satyam later. And therefore he says, even carelessly, inadvertently, even in gossip, you know, one should not speak untruth, whatever it is. So deliberately or without deliberation, ensure that you don't speak the untruth. It is, there is a thing that you should speak the truth, but it doesn't mean always speak the truth. There are truths which are not meant to be spoken and which have no benefit in speaking. Don't speak that truth. So we will see this in Bhagavad Gita when we go to the 17th chapter. It's called Vak Tapas. And then the next one is Dharman na pravaditavyam. So Dharmat na pravaditavyam. So Dharma here means, Shankara says, it means Sadgunaha, attitudes like Matra Deva Bhava, Ishwara Arpana Bhavana, all of this which are taught, all the Sadgunas and Sadkarma, all the good actions and the attitudes and the gunas which are taught in Karma Kanda, you should be always very careful to implement them. Never be negligent about their implementation. So remember, when you use the word dharma, it is not just knowledge. Knowledge of the karma, guna, bhavana, etc. is available in Karma Kanda. But when you use the word dharma, you have to bring about that after having studied, after having grasped the knowledge of what these karmas are, then I should practice. So this is a basic difference between dharma jnanam and brahma jnanam. Dharma jnanam by itself has no meaning. You know, if I say Satyam Vada is a virtue, I have learnt Satyam Vada is a virtue. But if all the time I am telling lies, what is the meaning of that study? Nothing. Therefore, dharma jnanam has to end in the practice, anushtanam. Dharma jnanam has to end in anushtanam, the practice of what has been learned. While Brahma Jnanam by itself is the end. There is nothing more to be done after you have got Brahma Jnana. After you have got Dharma Jnana, you have to implement. So remember that pramadaha in this context, negligence, means non-implementation of the dharma which you have studied. It's an act of omission. And if there's an act of omission, it gives rise to pratyavaya papam. So Shankara says, Sana kartavyaha. Do not ever allow such a omission. Okay. Then comes Kushalan na pramaditavyam. Kushalan na or Kushalat na pramaditavyam. Kushalam is Shankara writes, very nice compound word. Atma rakshartha karmanaha. Atma raksharthat karmana. What does it mean?
The physical and mental, emotional well-being, the
Here,
the
well, you can take
body,
it as that.
mind.
But here, Atma means the body. Rakshartha means for the purpose of karma means karma. So Kushala means karma for protecting yourself. The body should be fit and healthy in all the three ashramas, including sannyasa ashram. Okay. We saw this where in Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, chapter 6.
What are the words?
I think yuktahara viharasya.
Ahara viharasya. Very good. So that's how you connect.
Yogdahar.
Everything in Bhagavad Gita comes from the Shastra only. So we will do the one last one we'll do. I don't think we have time for more. Bhutai na pramaditavya. So bhuti here means vibhuti. Vibhuti is not vibhuti which is saw chapter 10, but material prosperity. So bhutai na pramaditavyam. Do not neglect your material prosperity. Right? Shankaracharya writes, because all rituals are meant for prosperity, and prosperity is auspicious. Why? Because prosperity is wealth. Wealth is Lakshmi Devi. And therefore, you should necessarily do all karma meant for gaining wealth. And what is that karma? We saw Avahanti Homam. Somewhere long ago we have seen. Avahanti Homam is that karma which you do for material prosperity, for propitiating Lakshmi Devi. Okay. So with this, we'll stop. Any questions?
Acharya ji, in the previous anuvaka, in that ninth anuvaka, that word ritam and satyam.
Yeah.
So
Those
that
are all in the context of what? In the context of
the
material
yes.
wealth or material objectives. So it's a completely
Okay.
different context.
Okay. Because that ritam meant the instructions.
Instructions, correct. But then the context is still different. So it is the same thing here. The same thing you have to follow, but for completely different sankalpa. Their sankalpa was, Lord, may I go to either have more money or may I go to Swarga. Here, sankalpa is either you don't have a sankalpa, which gives you chitta automatically, or your sankalpa is give me chitta and then give me a guru, and then give me knowledge.
But you also said that bhutyai here means the material things.
Prosperity here, remember, means that you get money because the money
Enough
is
for
required. Money is required for you to be focusing on your spiritual life.
ji.
A
Okay.
beggar can have no focus on spiritual life because his only focus in life is to get his next meal.
Mm. Ji, got it. Thank you.
So the idea that Shastra says you should neglect money or your own health is all wrong. That is what is being conveyed. You have to be a normal, balanced human being with a certain amount of prosperity in order to have the focus for wealth. And then get the wealth. After that, understand the value of scriptures and do everything that is required for Chitta Shuddhi.
Got it. Thank you, Acharya.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam
Om
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadaya Purnam Eva
Purnameva
Vashishyate Om
Om
Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you
Om
for your
Namah Shivaya.
patience.
Thank you
Om.
for
Thank you.